welcome to the deep dive. You gave us your sources, and we've waded through them to pull out the really key stuff. Today, it's all about you and this, well, fascinating book you shared. Geoff Thompson's The Throws and Takedowns of Judo.
Exactly. And we're not just going to, list techniques. The idea is to really explore what Thompson's getting at in the book, why he picks these throws, and kind of dig into how these judo skills could actually work in, let's say, self-defense.
Yeah.
Especially given his background.
Right. And Geoff Thompson, he's quite a character, isn't he? High-level black belts, sure, judo included, but it's that time as a nightclub doorman, the stuff he wrote about in Watch My Back, that really gives him a different angle, I think.
Mm-hmm. He's seen things.
Plus, he trained with some serious names in judo. Wayne Lack and Neil Adams, Olympic level. So he's got the theory and the gritty, practical side.
Absolutely. So our mission today really is to grasp the fundamentals of these throws as Thompson lays them out and pull out those insights on practical use. If things unfortunately get physical outside the dojo.
Okay, so where does he start?
Well, interestingly, he kicks off by talking about grappling's comeback. Ground fighting becoming super popular, partly thanks to things like the UFC. He says it's about time, actually.
Okay, wait, so he's not dismissing ground fighting? Because I know he's been pushing for that based on his own door work for ages.
No, not at all. He totally gets that ground skills are vital. But, and this is his key point, he warns people not to forget about the standing part, the tachiwaza.
Standing techniques.
Yeah. His argument is basically how you hit the ground makes a massive difference. If you get launched badly, maybe you land wrong, all those slick ground moves might not even come into play.
Right, like a boxer getting tripped. Suddenly their best weapon is useless for a bit.
Exactly that analogy. So for Thompson Judo, with its big focus on throws and takedowns from standing, well, he sees it as maybe an underrated art for controlling things. It's about deciding if the fight goes down, and crucially, who's in control when it does.
Makes sense. Dictating the terms.
Precisely. And then, boom, chapter 1 jumps straight into the bedrock. Balance, stance, and grip. He basically says, look, you can know 50 throws, but if you're wobbling all over the place, forget it.
Right. Foundation first. He compares the stance to karate, but smaller, like a 45-degree lead.
Yeah, that's the example he gives. Left foot forward, 45 degrees. Could be the other way, of course. The main thing is knees slightly bent, relaxed but ready, stable.
And you need to keep that stance while moving and get back to it after trying something.
That's what he stresses. Maintain it, move from it, return to it. Always have that solid base.
Okay, and the grip. What's the standard starting point?
Standard judo grip. Left hand grabs their right lapel, or, in a real situation, maybe their shirt, collar, whatever's there. Then the right hand goes on their left sleeve, usually near the elbow or wrist.
So that's your connection, your control point.
Your initial point of leverage, yeah.
Yeah.
He does say, look, top-level judoka, guys like Neil Adams he mentions, they can throw from almost any grip. But for learning, nail these basics first. Grip fighting itself is apparently super deep.
Okay, stance, grip.
Yeah.
Then you need to upset their balance, right? Knock them off kilter.
Exactly. Break their balance. He talks about pulling, pushing, even feinting, like make them react one way then go another. Push them to their front right corner, pull them straight back off to their back left. The idea is just to make them unstable. Get them shifting weight.
That's the opening for the throw.
That's the window. And it's not just about what you do. He also says, pay attention to their movements.
Ah, right. If they attack you.
Yeah, if they throw a punch or lunge or try their own takedown, they're off balance naturally in that moment. That's a golden opportunity to use their momentum.
Okay, then he mentions something specific to less trained opponents. Stiff arming. Just pushing you away.
Yeah, he says that's super common on the street. People tense up, just extend their arms. Thompson's advice, don't fight strength with strength. Go with their push.
And strikes. He brings that in for self-defense, doesn't he?
He does. He explicitly says, in a self-defense context, not sport judo, a quick straight palm heel, maybe a low kick can break that stiff arm, disrupt their structure before you go for the throw. He calls it the blow before the throw. Creates that moment you need.
That's a very practical, street-oriented adjustment. And what if there's no jacket? No gi to grab?
Good point. He mentions that. Says you then shift more towards wrestling-style grips. Control the limbs directly, arms, head, body locks. Greco-Roman stuff, freestyle leg attacks become more important then.
So the big takeaway from chapter 1 sounds like practice. You got to feel this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Pulling around, he calls it. Grappling with different body types, different levels of resistance. That's how you develop the feel for balance, timing, finding those entries. It's not just book learning.
Right. Okay, so moving on to the actual throws. Chapter 2, Tayatoshi. Body drop. He says you learn it static first, but that's not the goal.
Definitely not. Static is just to get the shape. The real work is uchikomi, repetitive entries with movement, and then randori, free sparring. He's really strong on this. Randori is where you make it work against someone actually trying to stop you. He says taking it out is like, well, removing the teeth from the art.
Makes sense. And after the throw lands, you have a choice. Follow down or back off.
Yeah, a critical choice, especially outside the gym. Nawaza, ground fighting might be the goal in sport, but on the street, maybe you need to disengage, check surroundings, maybe follow up differently. It depends entirely on the situation.
Could you get dragged down with them?
Oh yeah, he mentions that too. Panic grab, they pull you down, so you got to be ready for the ground anyway.
Okay, so Tayatoshi itself, how does that work? Break it down.
Okay, step 1. Break their balance. Specifically, forward and to their right. Then, your right foot steps across, outside their right foot. You bend your left knee, and crucially, your right leg acts like a block behind their right ankle.
So they try to step forward to catch their balance?
And they can't because your leg's there. You use that forward energy they're generating, steal their energy, as he puts it, lift with your grips, pulling down with the left, driving with the right, and basically wheel them over your blocking ankle. Straighten your right leg as they go over.
Sounds quite dynamic. And the no jacket version.
Similar footwork, but instead of the lapel grip, you'd wrap your right arm around their head or neck area for control before the turn and throw.
Got it. Next up, Chapter 3. Ippon Seoi Nage. Shoulder throw. The one you see in films, often badly done.
Huh. Yeah, exactly. He points out it's often depicted really poorly. It requires proper setup, not just grabbing an arm and flipping someone.
It sounds like he prefers a variation.
Well, he acknowledges the drop Seoi Nage, where you drop to your knees, is common and effective, but he personally expresses some caution about completely turning your back to an opponent, which the standard Seoi Nage requires.
Okay, so the standard one,
Yeah.
how does he explain it?
Balance break is generally backwards. As they resist that, you step your right foot in, pivot your body, and importantly, bend your knees a lot to get your hips underneath their center of gravity.
Get low.
Really low. Your right arm comes under their right armpit, gripping their gi or clothing. Feet stay inside theirs for stability. Then you lift with your legs and back, throwing them over your shoulder.
And the drop version is just dropping to the knees during that motion.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Uses gravity more, but again, he hammers home. Practice this in randori, against resistance. Otherwise, it's just choreography.
Makes sense. He mentions maybe using it if grabbed from behind.
Potentially, yeah. But he stresses you'd need incredible speed and timing for that to work. High risk.
Okay, Chapter 4. Ogoshi. Hip throw. He says it's fundamental, but maybe less seen in top competition.
Yeah, the basic ogoshi isn't as common under pressure as some other throws, though advanced hip throw variations certainly are. He includes it because it's foundational for understanding those variations. It's reliable, but needs that fast, committed entry.
So, walk us through the basic Ogoshi.
Okay, standard grip. Break balance backwards into their right corner. As they react, you step your right foot across, pivot, and bring your right arm around their waist.
Waist, or sometimes head or armpit.
Yeah, depends on the situation and grip. The key is bending your knees so your right hip fits right into their lower abdomen, acting like a shelf. Feet inside theirs again. Then you straighten your legs powerfully, lifting and projecting them over your hips.
Does it need clothing grip?
He notes it can work well even without a strong clothing grip, which is useful. And he shares that really vivid story about using it as a doorman.
Right, from a headlock even, to control people without necessarily hurting them badly.
Exactly. Shows its versatility. Control, takedown, managing force. It's not just about blasting someone.
Okay, Chapter 5. Osoto Gabari. Major outside reap. And he calls this one scary and devastating. That's strong language.
It really is. He means it. He warns about the potential for serious injury if you don't control the landing. He talks about friends needing to consciously ease people down in street fights to avoid disaster.
Wow. But effective. He mentions a police officer's student.
Yeah, used it successfully for arrests multiple times. Controlled, but effective. Apparently nobody he used it on wanted to get back up quickly.
Okay, so how do you set up and execute this powerful throw?
Usually from a standard grip. You might give a little pull forward first, make them resist by pulling back, then bam, you use that backward momentum, break their balance back into their right corner.
While stepping forward yourself?
Simultaneously step forward with your left foot, landing slightly outside and past their right foot. Keep pulling them off balance as you swing your right leg straight back like a pendulum.
The reaping leg.
Right. You reap the back of their right calf or thigh with your right leg. Keep your toes pointed down, leg stiff, don't hook it. While you reap, your left hand pulls down hard, and your right hand drives them powerfully across and down. They basically get swept off their supporting leg.
Heavy impact potential. And he mentioned even more aggressive options.
Yeah, for extreme situations. Letting go with the right hand to grab the throat during the throw, or driving your right bicep under their nose to snap their head back as they fall. Nasty stuff, but illustrates the potential power. Key is that stiff reaping leg.
Okay. Moving to Chapter 6. Uchiguri. Major inside reap. He finds this one tougher against skilled grapplers.
Yeah, experienced folks can counter it more easily, but he thinks it's good against less experienced people, especially up close in, say, a street scenario.
But there's a risk. Getting pulled down.
That's the main caution. You might end up on the ground with them. Fine one-on-one if you have ground skills, but really dangerous if they have friends around. He brings up his 4Bs again. Biting, butting, blinding buddies don't want to be grounded with multiple attackers.
That's a chilling reminder. What's his advice if that happens? Use the first guy as a shield.
Grim, but yeah. Control the person you took down. Use their body to create distance or block others if you absolutely have to. But the main goal is always get back to your feet ASAP in that situation.
So how does he prefer to do Uchiguri?
His method often involves pulling them forward first, making them instinctively pull back. As they pull back, he drives in, hooks his right leg inside and around their left lower ankle or heel.
Opposite leg to a sotogari.
Exactly. Then he lifts that hooked leg slightly while driving them backwards hard with his upper body and right arm. He emphasizes getting really close, chest to chest, maybe even a knee bump or headbutt in a street fight to create the opening.
Stay standing if possible, or land heavy if you go down.
Right. And secure a dominant ground position immediately if you do fall. He also mentions Ochigaki, using a hook rather than a sweeping reap.
Gotcha. Chapter 7. Kuchigari.
Ah.
Minor inside reap. Sounds less dramatic, but he calls it fantastic.
Yeah, it looks smaller, but he rates it really highly. Says it's his main technique in randori, often used as a setup for bigger throws like a sotogari or just as a quick trip to disrupt them.
Versatile, then. Can be used at range or close up.
It can, though the book focuses on the close range version. He describes his preferred way using a strong, high right-hand grip.
Okay, how's that executed?
He pulls them forward and down initially. They resist, stepping forward maybe, and naturally wanting to pull back up to posture. He resists their pullback for a second, then suddenly relaxes and goes with their upward pull.
Using their energy again.
Exactly. As they come up and slightly back, he drives hard backward with his right arm, simultaneously hooking his right foot behind the right ankle, the one that likely stepped forward, and sweeps it out as he pushes. Timing is key.
He mentions advanced timing, too.
Yeah, sweeping just as they transfer weight onto that right foot. Very precise. And again, there's a kuchigaki hooking variation.
All right. Chapter 8 is Harai Goshi, sweeping hip throw, a more practical hip throw variant.
That's how he positions it, yeah. Using the leg sweep makes it different from the basic ogoshi lift. He prefers a high right grip for it, but again notes that mastery allows it from other grips. Mentions watching top guys at Neil Adams' place just breaking grips like nothing.
High-level stuff. So, the technique for Harai Goshi.
You pull down with your right hand grip, maybe a bit forward too, to get them to step with their right leg. As they react and start to pull back up, you use that upward energy. Step your right foot towards their right foot.
Similar entry to a Goshi.
Similar start, yeah. Then you pivot, bringing your left foot next to your right, bending your knees, getting your hips in tight against their lower abdomen, lift them onto your hip.
But then the sweep.
Right. Almost simultaneously with the lift, you sweep the back of your right thigh vigorously against the front of their right thigh, continuing the motion backwards. It's a powerful sweeping action combined with the hip lift and pull from your arms that sends them flying forward.
Sounds complex, coordinating all that.
It takes practice. He stresses listening to their energy, using their reactions, and needing experience to create openings against someone just stiff-arming. You have to make the move.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Chapter 9. Uchi Mata, inner thigh throw. He calls this one highly skilled, big in competition judo.
Very much so, a favorite internationally. But interestingly, he suggests it might actually be easier to land on the street against someone unskilled because they won't know the counters.
And he mentions a controversial use in the dojo.
Yeah, a bit eyebrow-raising. He talks about using the threat of it hitting the groin to control overly aggressive training partners. Not actually striking the groin, but making them aware of the danger, forcing them to be more controlled. It implies its potential as a, well, debilitating strike in a real fight.
So the mechanics. Similar entry to Harai Goshi.
Very similar initial movement, yeah.
Mhm.
Lead with the right leg, high right grip usually. Pull down, use their upward reaction. But when you spin and plant your left foot, you plant it deep between their legs.
Okay, deeper entry.
Much deeper, bend the knees, get under them, lift them onto your hip like a goshi. But instead of sweeping the outside, you straighten your legs and powerfully sweep your right thigh upwards between their legs, launching them forward as you pull with your grips.
Sounds like a big commitment.
It is. High risk, high reward. He notes you often go down with them, which again means different things in sport versus self-defense. Mastering that deep entry step is absolutely crucial.
Right. Okay, last throw in the book, chapter 10. Hizaguruma. Knee wheel. Simple but effective trip.
That's the description. Doesn't look flashy, but very functional. He really highlights the handwork here.
Good hands are key.
Vital. The right hand does a sort of punching action towards their head or shoulder, pushing them off balance. Simultaneously, the left hand pulls strongly across your body like turning a big steering wheel.
Okay, hands doing that.
Hmm.
What about the feet?
As you do the hand action, you step slightly to your right and place the sole of your left foot firmly on the front of their left knee, just below the kneecap.
Blocking the knee?
Exactly. The hand actions force them to try and step forward with that left leg to regain balance, but your foot is blocking it. So they trip or wheel over your blocking leg.
Sounds like it gives good control.
It does. Less chance of you being pulled down compared to some other throws. He notes it often leaves you in a great position to follow up with an armbar if you go to the ground, or to strike, or simply escape.
So summing up the book's conclusion, Thompson focused on core, high-percentage judo throws. Right. Not an encyclopedia.
Exactly. Prioritizing the throws unique to judo and known for being effective rather than dozens of obscure ones. Master a few powerful tools, basically.
And reinforcing that throws alone aren't enough for the street.
Absolutely critical point. You need skills in all ranges. Striking is often primary in that initial 3-second fight, as he calls it, but throws are invaluable if it closes to grappling.
And you might end up grappling whether you want to or not.
Yeah, someone might just grab you and pull you down. So ground knowledge is essential. And he circles back to that blow before throw idea from old judo, using a strike to set up the takedown.
Very practical.
And he finishes with a message about avoiding violence when possible. Yes, a really important closer. Violence isn't the answer. Avoidance first. But training, like judo, should build the confidence not to fight, to de-escalate and walk away when you can.
So it's a blend of technique and mindset.
Definitely. He presents these throws as tools, vital ones, but within that larger context of self-defense, which includes awareness, avoidance, striking, and groundwork. It's about realistic practice and understanding how it all fits together.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into the throws and takedowns of judo, some really standout points for me were just how seriously he takes Osotogari, calling it scary.
Yeah, that really lands, doesn't it?
And his own use of a goshi as a doorman, that practical application, plus the whole street versus sport effectiveness idea, like with Uchi Mata. It's that blend of formal judo and, well, harsh reality.
Absolutely. And those core principles, balance, leverage, using an opponent's energy, start thinking, well, those apply beyond fighting, don't they? Tackling problems, using resources smartly. It's about finding the right leverage point.
That's a really interesting way to frame it. So maybe for you, the listener, a final thought. Just thinking conceptually, which of these throws kind of grabs you? Taitoshi's ankle block, Harai Goshi's sweep, Uchigori's inside trip.
Yeah, which one just seems mechanically interesting? You don't have to train, but maybe look up a quick clip online. See Osotogari or Hizaguruma in action. It can really click when you visualize it after hearing about the mechanics.
See your principles in motion.
Exactly. Just understanding how bodies move and how force works.
Well, thanks again for sharing your sources and coming along on this deep dive with us. We hope peeling back the layers of Geoff Thompson's take on judo throws has been insightful.
Yeah, it's been great digging into it.
We're already looking forward to the next one.